No one saw this coming. Queen Camila, once crowned beside Charles, has now been locked out of the palace in utter disgrace. Caught in a private affair with a former royal aide and tied to the theft of Diana's heirlooms, her double betrayal shattered the monarchy from within. King Charles, heartbroken and furious, acted swiftly. The woman he once risked everything for had crossed the line personally and royally. What began as whispers ended in exile. Now the truth is out. Camilla didn't just cheat on Charles, she cheated the crown, and this time there's no walking back through the gates. The secret that shook the crown. On June 25, 2025, everything changed. King Charles III, beginning his morning routine at Buckingham Palace with a steaming cup of Earl Gray, opened an anonymous dossier that had been slipped under a pile of royal reports. Inside were high-resolution surveillance stills dated May 11th to 13th, showing Queen Camila embracing a man in a private suite at a Windsor-adjacent estate. The man's face wasn't blurred. It was unmistakably Edward Langley, a longtime royal staffer with known personal ties to Camilla stretching back to 1999. The retreat had been explained to Charles as a solo wellness getaway for Camilla's stress recovery, but the photos told a different story. Arms around each other, glasses of wine, late-night shadows behind a window pane. At first, Charles refused to believe it. The timing didn't make sense, but the Palace Security Intelligence Unit, a rarely mentioned branch of royal oversight, confirmed the authenticity. They matched Edward Langley's ID, his private transport logs, and entry-exit timings from the Windsor grounds. This wasn't rumor, it was betrayal in print, but this was just the beginning. The investigation opened by Charles, intended to verify the affair, started uncovering unusual overlaps with the vault entry logs. The timeline revealed Camilla had accessed the royal heirloom vault on April 22nd, allegedly for heritage research. That same week, the security logs noted she left the palace with a locked trunk not registered in the artifact checkout system. The coincidence was glaring. Charles instructed the intelligence office, follow the trunk, follow the man. What unfolded next would send tremors through the monarchy. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about Camilla quietly stripping the royal legacy under the disguise of love, and possibly for someone else. The crown was now under siege from within, and the traitor wore the title of Queen Consort. But as Charles dug deeper into Camilla's double life, what he uncovered was not just a romantic betrayal, it was theft wrapped in secrecy, masked by affection, and aimed straight at the royal vault. Affair and theft, a royal double life. The internal report dated July 1st, 2025, confirmed the worst. Camilla's April vault access wasn't just unusual, it was unauthorized. The fingerprint logs showed she bypassed standard protocol by using a dormant override code last used in 2014, one that should have been decommissioned. That same day, Diana's caterpillar earrings and the Spencer choker, appraised at £650,000 combined, were marked as missing in the quarterly archive update. Security reviewed footage from the Clarence House loading bay, where Camilla's car was stationed for 45 minutes. A trunk was lifted, but no one knew what was inside. The destination, her private suite near Windsor, the same place where Edward Langley stayed during the so-called wellness retreat in May. The trunk was never returned. Staff grew suspicious, but remained silent until Charles opened the investigation. Private messages, recovered from Camilla's encrypted tablet, revealed emotionally loaded conversations with Edward Langley. Phrases like, "You always knew me better than he did," and "this time, it's ours," painted a troubling picture. She hadn't just betrayed Charles's trust. She was removing pieces of the royal history for a man who had no royal title, no role in legacy. It was the worst-case scenario. This wasn't a scandal built on gossip. It was written in dates, access codes, and missing treasures. The crown had been compromised, not by an outsider, but by the woman who had once vowed to uphold it. Charles now faced the greatest challenge of his reign, separating personal devastation from national duty. With mounting evidence and betrayal confirmed, Charles prepared for a confrontation that would define the fate of the monarchy, and he wouldn't go into it blind. Charles catches her in a lie. On the evening of July 1st, 2025, King Charles III summoned Camilla for a private meeting inside the Blue Room at Buckingham Palace. The doors were locked. The staff were dismissed. This wasn't a royal conversation. It was an interrogation. Charles, armed with time-stamped stills, internal security logs, and encrypted correspondence from palace intelligence, laid everything on the table. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He simply asked, "Who is he?" But it wasn't just about the man in the photo. It was about what she'd stolen. Camilla, caught off guard, began with soft denials. An old friend. It was a wellness retreat. You were busy with Parliament, but her story was full of holes. Charles quietly opened a second folder, Vault Access Logs, from April 18th to April 22nd, 2025, revealing that Camilla had signed out the same code used to unlock the private heirloom collection. She left at 9:42 a.m. and returned at 1:11 p.m. with a trunk uninspected by staff. A trunk, Charles said, that hasn't returned. As she faltered, Charles pressed forward. "This isn't just infidelity. You used Diana's legacy as bait. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Camilla wept, but couldn't explain why Diana's 1986 pearl earrings were missing from the vault, or how they ended up on her daughter's ears. She claimed it was all a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. Charles reportedly told aides later that evening, "She didn't just insult me. She insulted the memory of my mother and the woman I couldn't protect." The trust that had barely survived decades of scandal, Diana's heartbreak in 1992, the tampon gate leak in 1993. The slow acceptance of Camilla in the 2005 marriage finally shattered. Charles didn't sleep that night. He stared at the fire in his private quarters and murmured to himself, "Diana warned me." By 7:00 a.m. the next morning, Charles had made his decision. Camilla's access to vaults, council, and ceremonial archives would be revoked within 48 hours. Camilla's unraveling was no longer just a secret affair. It was unraveling the monarchy itself. But Charles wasn't the only one watching, because someone else had been keeping quiet, waiting for her moment to strike. That person was Princess Anne, a daughter's role in the scandal. On June 29, 2025, Buckingham Palace hosted a quiet luncheon to celebrate Princess Charlotte's charity milestone. It was an intimate affair, only 32 guests, mostly family and close aides. Catherine arrived at 12:14 p.m. dressed in a soft blue day dress once worn by Diana in 1995. She noticed Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter, seated by the north window wearing an eye-catching pair of pearl drop earrings. 3 cascading pearls, diamond-tipped, gleaming softly in the sunlight. Catherine stared. She didn't blink. Within 5 minutes, she had her assistant retrieve the heirloom catalogue from Windsor archive. The match was immediate. Qatar, 1986. A state gift to Princess Diana, worn famously during her visit to the London Opera on October 14, 1986. The serial mark and clasp design were unmistakable. Catherine didn't confront Laura immediately. She watched. She calculated. She waited until 12:42 p.m., then calmly asked in front of witnesses, "Where did you get those earrings?" Laura stammered. "A gift from Mom, said they were hers to pass down." Catherine didn't react. She simply turned to the palace gemologist, already on standby due to security flags, and handed over the earrings for verification. By 1:00 p.m., it was confirmed. These were the originals, last logged in March 2023, scheduled for Princess Charlotte's 18th birthday in 2043. The reaction was instant. William arrived by 10:08 p.m. Catherine whispered just one word to him, "Confirmed." the room turned silent. Charles, informed by private message, declined to attend the luncheon but called an emergency advisory with his legal team. William's words later were crystal clear. She tried to insert her bloodline into a legacy that doesn't belong to her. That's not inheritance, that's infiltration. For Charles, that moment marked the emotional cut-off. Camilla hadn't just lied, she had used royal history to rewrite royal destiny. With Diana's earrings dangling from the ears of someone not even royal by title, the symbolism hit hard. But what came next? Inside the quiet walls of Clarence House would strip Camilla not just of her jewels, but of her standing public humiliation behind closed doors. On July 3, 2025, an emergency royal council was convened behind closed doors. It was just 5 people: Charles, William, Catherine, Princess Anne, and the royal constitutional advisor. The mood was cold, clinical, devastating. No press was informed, no public statement would follow, but inside the room, history was being written. Charles laid the photos, security logs, gemologist reports, and heirloom discrepancies on the table. "This is no longer a family dispute," he said. "This is a breach of crown protocol." Anne, always the blunt sword in the royal arsenal, was livid. "She has used our mother's name, our history, and our grief as a bargaining chip." William didn't speak until asked. When he did, he said only one sentence: "My mother was erased once. We won't let it happen again." Catherine stayed quiet, her hands folded over a fresh file of vault inventory. But her silence was more powerful than outrage. It was the silence of decisive resolve. Charles issued 5 immediate orders. Camilla's palace entry was suspended effective July 4, 2025. Her communication staff would be reassigned by July 6. Access codes to all vaults and archives were changed by midnight. Her royal security detail was howled. Her title, Queen Consort, would remain, but her duties were gone. She was now a symbolic ghost within the monarchy, not escorted out, but fully locked out. Later that evening, Camilla received a sealed envelope from Charles's personal courier. Inside was a formal directive bearing his royal seal and 3 words written by hand at the bottom. "Trust is broken." The staff at Clarence House were told to begin quiet relocation procedures. By July 5, she would be gone, but the public didn't remain in the dark for long. Because by the time the sun rose on July 6, the press had the story and it spread like wildfire. The palace leak ignites a firestorm. By 6:00 a.m. on July 6, 2025. The front page of the Times ignited like a match to dry parchment. Queen Camila in secret affair and jewel theft scandal. The story wasn't just leaked, it was detonated. Photos of Camilla with her mystery companion from the May 2025 Windsor retreat were published alongside confirmed palace logs of her unauthorized access to the royal vault. And then came the headline that shook the monarchy: "Legacy betrayed. Diana's jewels found on Camilla's daughter." Social media erupted within minutes. Hashtags like "Chain Queen," "Archdiana deserved better," and "Not My Queen" dominated Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram across 93 countries. A viral video comparing Camilla's daughter, Laura Lopes, wearing the 1986 Qatar earrings to archival footage of Diana sparked a new round of fury. "It's like watching history get robbed." One commenter wrote, a post that racked up 4.7 million views in 12 hours. For many, this wasn't about personal betrayal. It was about rewriting national memory. Palace insiders began whispering to journalists that Camilla had already been stripped of all operational duties by July 4. Leaked emails showed royal aides scrambling to update press statements and reassign Clarence House staff. The BBC interrupted regular programming to host a live special titled "The Queen Who Went Too Far." Tabloid headlines followed with brutal clarity. "Legacy looted, betraying Diana twice," and "Camilla's final fall." Public opinion hit an all-time low. YouGov polls from July 7 showed Camilla's approval rating plunging to 21%, the lowest since she joined the royal family in 2005. Meanwhile, Catherine surged to 85%. And Princess Charlotte became a new symbol of protected legacy. For many, it wasn't just about removing Camilla. It was about defending Diana 20 years too late, but right on time for history to finally correct itself. As media fire spread across screens and headlines inside Buckingham Palace, King Charles was writing one final order. Camilla's exile wasn't symbolic anymore. It was constitutional and irreversible. Charles's final decision. Exile. At 8:15 a.m. on July 7, 2025, King Charles III summoned his private secretary, Sir Giles Norbury, and issued a confidential directive. Camilla was to be formally downgraded to a non-operational royal. The directive included 7 key terms, each written under royal seal, revoking ceremonial duties, event attendance, vault access, and communication privileges. She would retain the Queen Consort title for protocol, but in practice, she was banished from the heart of the monarchy. The same day, palace security changed all digital and biometric access to royal archives. Camilla's aides were removed from Clarence House by 6:00 p.m. and a private vehicle delivered her to Ray Mill House in Laycock, Wiltshire, her personal estate far removed from Windsor's inner circle. She was told she may not return to any royal residence without written permission from the monarch himself. It was a soft exile, but devastating all the same. Inside Ray Mill, Camilla reportedly spent the first 48 hours alone. Her children, Tom Parker B.S. and Laura Lopes, visited briefly on July 9th, but avoided press questions and left through the side gate. Camilla, once the public face beside a monarch, now lived behind shuttered windows and silent phones. Her former driver spoke anonymously. She didn't speak the whole ride. Just stared out the window, pale, hollow. The Queen Consort had become a ghost. Charles issued a private message to staff that afternoon. It read in part, "No one, not even those we once loved, may stand above legacy. My duty is to the crown and to the memory of those who built it." The statement was never released publicly, but insiders say those words now hang framed inside his private study, beside a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana taken in 1982. With Camilla removed, all eyes turned to the woman who had quietly taken up the burden of restoration, Catherine. Because the monarchy wasn't just cleaning house, it was rebuilding the vaults, the memory, and the public trust. Catherine reclaims Diana's legacy. On July 8, 2025, at precisely 10:30 a.m., Princess Catherine entered the royal vault beneath Windsor Castle, accompanied by only one person, Lady Elena Moore, the Crown's chief archivist. Together, they began the process of resecuring every remaining artifact tied to Princess Diana, including the 1981 Spencer choker, the 1985 sapphire brooch, and a handwritten letter Diana had addressed to William before her 1997 death. The vault's biometric system was reconfigured. Only Catherine and Charlotte's future steward could access it. As Catherine closed the final drawer, she placed a single envelope inside. On the front, it read in delicate cursive for Charlotte in strength and memory, "Love, Mommy." Those words weren't just maternal, they were a royal promise. Staff present that day described the moment as quiet but seismic. It wasn't about titles or press releases. It was about protecting what Camilla had tried to take. That same afternoon, Kensington Palace released 2 photos, one of Catherine standing in front of the vault doors, the other of Charlotte holding a framed photo of Diana. The images went viral, shared over 32 million times across social platforms in under 48 hours. A new hashtag surged, #legacy secured. Parliament members even called for a royal ceremony to formally acknowledge Catherine as protector of the royal archive. Polls from July 9th showed 85% support for Catherine, a assuming an elevated role in future royal decisions, and 72% now believed she should one day be titled queen, not just by marriage, but by national acclaim. In the eyes of the people, the monarchy had a new moral center rooted in Diana's grace, Charlotte's future, and Catherine's unwavering dignity. But as Catherine quietly locked the vault, someone else's past was being dragged out into daylight. Camilla's sins didn't start in 2025, and the world was about to remember everything she thought had been buried in silence. Camilla's past returns to bury her. By July 10, 2025, the media storm turned into a historical reckoning. As Camilla's betrayal dominated front pages, journalists and biographers unearthed long-buried scandals. First came the 1993 Tampon Gate tapes, when a leaked phone call between Charles and Camilla humiliated the monarchy and confirmed the affair during his marriage to Princess Diana. Back then, the public was divided. Now, with Camilla exposed for theft, infidelity, and royal manipulation, the past was being judged through new eyes, and it wasn't forgiving. Reports re-examined her 2017 and 2021 vault visits, previously dismissed as harmless heritage tour. But new whistleblowers from Clarence House told reporters those visits included unrecorded withdrawals and reassigned heirloom documentation. Financial analysts traced these visits to the disappearance of 2 Victorian brooches and a set of Georgian sapphire cufflinks later found auctioned anonymously in Geneva in 2022. The dots were now connecting. This wasn't a one-time offense. It was a pattern, one that spanned decades. Even former allies began cutting ties. The Royal PR Consortium, responsible for managing Camilla's image since 2005, quietly severed their contract. Publishers delayed the release of her planned memoir, and key staff from Clarence House, including her former stylist and personal assistant, requested reassignment. Meanwhile, Camilla's family, Annabelle, Tom Parker BS, and Laura Lopes, retreated from public life, each facing separate financial inquiries. Camilla's power circle collapsed like a paper crown. But the most symbolic erasure came from the palace itself. On July 12th, Buckingham Palace's official website removed Camilla's profile from the Working Royals page. Archived versions from July 1st still showed her beside Charles, smiling in pearls. Now she was gone. No formal announcement, no explanation, just a silent deletion that said everything. She no longer existed in the royal record. Camilla hadn't just fallen from grace, she had been erased from legacy. While Camilla faded into obscurity, another woman quietly rose, not through scandal or spin, but through silent strength and unshakable loyalty. And for the people, there was no doubt who deserved the crown next. The people crown their queen. On the morning of July 13th, 2025, Princess Catherine and Princess Charlotte visited a children's literacy charity in Oxford. No press statement was issued, no diamonds worn, just 2 generations walking hand in hand, surrounded by books, laughter, and quiet smiles. Yet the image spoke volumes. Within hours, it became the most shared royal photo of the year, 40 million views in a single day. The message was simple: the monarchy was healing, and Catherine was its future. British tabloids ran celebratory headlines: "The crown is safe again," "Charlotte's Guardian," and "Kate the Great." Major broadcasters like the BBC, Sky News, and even CNN aired retrospective specials comparing Diana's legacy to Catherine's public rise. The Telegraph published an op-ed calling for an official title elevation. If the Queen Consort title can be stripped in disgrace, it can be granted in honor. In a YouGov survey conducted July 14th, 72% of Britons said Catherine should be formally crowned when the time comes. Inside the palace, change was already underway. Charles, though still heartbroken, had not spoken to Camilla since July 4th. Aides close to him confirmed he was considering restructuring the Royal Succession Council to ensure Catherine's role is elevated, protected, and uninterrupted. Meanwhile, Anne led reforms to close loopholes in heirloom tracking, and William began preparations to assume more ceremonial duties by early 2026. The crown wasn't weakened. It was being reforged, stronger and more transparent than ever before. Camilla now lives alone at Ray Mill House, her name scrubbed from palace logs, her voice absent from royal ceremonies. Her legacy rewritten by betrayal, her children's resort ventures collapsed, their bank accounts frozen under royal audit, their names dragged across international headlines. In the end, she wasn't just found guilty of cheating on Charles, she was found guilty of cheating history, and while the palace never issued a public statement, the people already had. Catherine is their queen, and so Queen Camilla's story ends not with grace, but with scandal. A woman once whispered about behind velvet curtains, who rose to the throne against all odds, has now been cast out, not by the public, not by rumor, but by the very man who once defied tradition for her. King Charles, torn between love and duty, chose legacy. He chose loyalty to the crown. He chose to protect what remained of Diana's memory and the sacred fabric of the monarchy. For Camilla, it wasn't just a fall from grace. It was an unraveling. Years of ambition, secrecy, and subtle manipulation collapsed in a matter of days. The photographs, the missing jewels, the wellness retreats, the altered vault records, each piece told the same story, betrayal layered upon betrayal. And when the truth surfaced, not even her title could shield her. She wasn't just exiled from Buckingham Palace, she was erased from royal life. But in the midst of destruction, something else rose, something purer. Catherine, with dignity and restraint, stepped into the void, not through revenge, not through drama, but with quiet resolve. She reclaimed Diana's legacy, secured Princess Charlotte's future, and reminded the world what the monarchy could still represent: integrity, strength, and service. And the people responded in tweets, in letters, in polls. They crowned her not just in spirit, but in truth, the queen they never doubted, the queen they had waited for. Camilla now walks alone through the gardens of Ray Mill House, far from the corridors of power. The echoes of what could have been trail her like ghosts, memories she cannot rewrite. Doors she cannot reopen. History has judged her, and this time it did not flinch. Meanwhile, the crown stands firm, a little bruised perhaps, but stronger, leaner, wiser. Because what Camilla forgot is this: titles can be given, even forced, but respect, legacy, and trust, those are earned, and once broken, they are almost never repaired. In the end, Camilla lost everything she tried to take. And Catherine, she didn't ask for the throne. She simply earned it by standing still when the entire palace shook. And now the world knows who the real queen is.